Hi, everyone, and welcome to another LinkedIn Live. My name is Sarah Fung. I'm a registered nurse, career expert, and healthcare advocate. And I have another exciting guest with me today. She's been on with me before. I will let Sheena quickly introduce herself.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everybody. I'm Sheena Howard. I'm the owner and founder of Acceptance Nurse Psychotherapy, which is a clinic here in Canada, exclusively staffed by nurse psychotherapists. And I'm also a business savvy entrepreneur.
Amazing. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Sarah Fung. Like I said, I have worked as an RN since 2007. I've done a wide variety of traditional and non-traditional roles. I am the owner of the RN Resume that helps nurses with all things careers. I also am an author and a podcaster. So I recently released a book called The Wisdom of Nurses. And we're here today actually to chat about our entrepreneurial journeys. So for anyone listening, if you are even a little bit interested in becoming a business owner, you want to have more flexibility, this is the place for you. And while we're talking, just so you know that we are taking live questions and comments. So I'd love to know if anyone listening today can put in where they are calling from. We always want to know. So I'm actually in Hamilton, Ontario in Canada, and Sheena is in Peterborough. So we have, worked with nurses from all over, and we would love to learn more about you and what it is you want to know about. So, Sheena, I'm going to dive right into the first question, and I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
And maybe you can share a little bit about why you think nurses make great entrepreneurs.
Oh, what a great first question. I think we make great entrepreneurs for 100 different reasons, but mostly because we have this incredible ability for human connection, for relationship building, for resilience and fortitude and problem solving and creative thinking. And is MacGyvering a word, Sarah?
Yes, let's make it a word.
I think that's problem solving, but also we know how to get information, and we really know how to make connections between people. And starting a business or being an entrepreneur requires all of those skills. And it's amazing to me how many nurses say to me, "Oh, I could never do that." And I think to myself, we learned all of this in nursing school and in our nursing practice. We can 100% do this. And in fact, in my humble opinion, every Fortune 500 company or any company in Canada, mid-sized to large, needs nurses on their staff.
Absolutely. Like I put out a post recently and I said, what transferable skills do nurses have? And the responses I got were amazing because we are critical thinkers. We know how to build relationships. We help people through life and death, literally. So yes, we can start a business. And I feel like in a lot of businesses, you are still helping people. You're using different skills, but there's still nursing skills nonetheless. Every single nurse I've ever spoken to that has transitioned into something else tells me they still use their nursing skills every single day. And yes, even if you own a business, you are still a nurse. So we have some comments. We have someone calling in from Virginia Beach.
Welcome.
We've got Anna from Texas. Priya's from Mississauga, so not too far from me. Maureen is from New Jersey. And then we've got Andrea from Brampton. So don't be shy. Please put your questions into the chat. There are no silly questions. I love getting questions from, whoever wants to ask. And you can even tell me if you're asking for a friend and not yourself. That is okay.
Yes.
And so let's just talk briefly then about how we got into entrepreneurship. I love hearing your story, Sheena. So I'd love if you could share it with everyone.
Oh, sure. Which part of it? I'll see if I can make it really, really quick. I got into entrepreneurship because people told me I couldn't do it.
I love it.
And I mean that in all sincerity, in that I had been wanting to open up my own private nurse psychotherapy practice for quite a long time. And people kept, and by people, I mean not just like family and friends, they were really mostly really supportive. It was my colleagues that were saying things like, the College of Nurses is going to take your license. Nurses can't run businesses. Where are you going to find the time? Where are you going to find the money? Who's going to want to see a nurse? And I was just appalled by all of that. And then also having bosses and supervisors that said, there's no way you can do that. You can't. And I had been hired for a job where I was doing mental health, and that job was getting more and more constricted as the college was reiterating that nurses can indeed do the controlled active nurse psychotherapy. So then COVID happened, and I got offered, when COVID was sort of settling down, although it hasn't fully settled, but when we were invited to go back to work, I was offered a position that was going to require me to work evenings, nights, weekends, and on call, and start at 7:00 in the morning.
Wow.
And I thought, I'm done. And so I quit and thought, you know what? I'm so sick of people telling me that I can't do this. And I opened up my practice in my bathtub. I started my practice in my bathtub, my business in my bathtub. I made a little Canva.
Do you mean that you got the idea when you were in your bathtub? Like you weren't literally taking calls in your bathtub?
No. Okay. No, I wasn't taking calls in my bathtub on a Sunday evening, like late afternoon, which is what I normally do on Sunday afternoon, as I have a bath. And I thought, I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of the people telling me I can't do it, of feeling scared. And I thought, well, there's no time like the present. So I made a little Canva ad that said, now welcoming patients. I put it up on my website, and I posted it on Facebook, and I was full in 4 months.
Amazing. I love hearing that journey. I think that, when someone tells me I can't do something, it makes me want to do it more.
Yes.
So my journey was a little bit different than you, but my main reason for wanting to start my own business was just getting away from toxic work environments and toxic coworkers. I feel like a lot of times we put up with this because we don't think there are any other options. We don't think we deserve better. And I do think that in nursing, there's a lot of fear and silencing. Like you mentioned, worrying about losing your job and your license. Those are the top two fears I hear from nurses just about everything. That, there's this one story you heard from maybe 10 years ago that someone lost their license, but maybe you don't know the whole story. And it's probably not exactly what you think. So there are lots of different reasons why you might want to start a business, but I think any reason is valid as long as you have the passion and you want to go for it. I think one of the things that we want to talk a little bit about as well is, what we learned and what we wished we had done differently. So do you have anything that comes to the top of your mind when you think about, I wish I'd done this earlier in my business, or I would have done this differently if I could go back in time?
Yep. My first thought is I wish that in nursing school and out into my nursing practice, like I've been a nurse now for over 20 years, that I could have seen nurse entrepreneurs as examples of what a nurse could do. Mm-hmm. And that I've always been somebody, I think you and I are really aligned in that way, that if somebody tells me or that I can't do something, or if they're telling me that my patient can't have access to certain things, even though I know they can, right? I'm just going to keep pushing harder. But there was no mentorship really. And so if I could go back in time, I would have loved to have the wherewithal to say, can we please have a speaker on nurse entrepreneurship? Mm-hmm. But ultimately what that leads me to is I would have started investing in my business a lot sooner. Mm-hmm. I would have sought out, I would have done a deeper dive into nurses who were already running businesses to try to interview them, to find out what had happened, or better than interviewing, even paid them for their hour of time to just discover how did they get to where they were. And I would also have invested in my business sooner, meaning that I would have tried to find a coach who understood what I wanted to do and then worked with them to get started, because I delayed. I was scared to start and I delayed way too long. And then even in growing my business and then offering business savvy as a second option, like it's my second business, I waited way too long.
Yeah. It's all hindsight is 2020. Like yes. I had a business before this that failed. And I think part of the reason it failed is I was so afraid of failure that I didn't really try. And I didn't tell anybody that I had started a business because I was so afraid that I would bother them, or that, they would think it was silly. And so it kind of failed before it even started. And so I did learn a lot from it. And you're right, there were no mentors. I felt like I was kind of just trying to learn on the fly, which is really hard. And, it's not a sign of weakness to ask for help. So just because you ask for help doesn't mean you can't do it. The most successful people out there, now that I talk to a lot of successful business owners, they're all getting all kinds of help. You just don't know about it. So don't think that everybody or anybody out there has done it on their own, because they haven't. They're just not talking about it.
That's right. And the more that I tried to do it on my own, the more I started learning that what got me here isn't going to get me there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
I was still doing all of the same things that got me to this point where I was developing this clinic and doing all that. But yet the really hard part for me is that I had to look outside of nursing to find the next level to support me in the growth.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard. That was hard, because it's difficult to explain nursing mindset to somebody in business who's not a nurse.
Right. And I think just going back to the investment, like a lot of nurses have no qualms whatsoever about going back to school for another degree, which is it can be very expensive and time consuming. But yet when we think about investing in ourselves, even like investing in your career or your business, all of a sudden it's like, we don't know what that means. And so we can't put a value on it, because we don't even realize that it's something you might need to do. Right. So you spend 5 figures on another degree, which may or may not help you in your career. But if you invest in yourself and you get that support, then you definitely will see the rewards. Yes. I just want to show some more comments. So we have someone calling from Chicago, someone again from New Jersey. Oh, we've got someone watching all the way from Zimbabwe. I think you win the award for being farthest away.
Wow, welcome.
I feel like it might be the middle of the night in Zimbabwe. That is amazing. And London, Ontario, amazing. Heather also says, I get my best ideas in the bathtub. So you're not alone, Sheena. And Chizoba says she gets her ideas in the shower. So where I get my best ideas is actually when I'm driving. I know this sounds weird, but I'll be driving just down like a quiet road and I get really good ideas. Or when I go for a walk, they come to me. So I either have to try and remember them or put them on my phone so that I can hang on to that idea.
That's great. Yes, I know you pull over and take notes.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Yes.
Are you ready for your first question, Sheena?
Oh, I'd love to
I guess it could be for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
So Priya is wondering what advice you would have for a nurse who's early in her career. She recently graduated with an honors Bachelor of Science in Psych, Neuroscience, and Behavior, and now in her first year of accelerated nursing. Priya is definitely young, but the drive to be a business owner is there.
Wow, that's so exciting.
So I guess she's wondering, what kind of advice would you have for someone fairly early in their career, and maybe they're feeling like, I don't have enough experience to start a business?
Right. Well, first of all, yay that you know yourself that well, that you're ready, the drive to run a business. That is so exciting. I'm so curious if you've tried any businesses beforehand. My encouragement would be to start keeping a notebook, or on your phone, or just even like a small doodle book like this, that you can start writing down your ideas for your businesses. Because my guess is if you want to run a business, you probably have 5, 6, 10 ideas about what you could do. And keep a notebook about what kind of business you think you would want to run, what kind of ideas you have. You can also, the BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada, has incredible resources on how to build out a business plan, and even just asking yourself some questions around that based on what they've suggested. And also, what kind of innovations do you see as you're going through your nursing, this part of your nursing, this accelerated nursing track? What kind of innovations are you noticing would be needed? So where are the gaps in care? Where are the innovations that are required? And see if you can find the answers to those. What do you think?
I love that.
Yeah,
I think that makes a lot of sense. Like a lot of times let's say you're working in a hospital, and then there's what I call break room talk. So you go to the break room to complain about everything, but think about the things you're complaining about. Is there actually a solution to it? Because there probably is. And you, as a frontline user, or frontline nurse could probably think of that solution. And again, you don't have to do this completely on your own. You can get help with it. But if
Yes.
you have an idea and you have the drive, and this is something that you think you could do day in and day out, because one of the things as an entrepreneur is that you won't have someone looking over your shoulder to make sure you're getting things done. So you have to be that person, and it has to be something that you are so excited about that you want to get out of bed every day and work on. And you know, the idea part can be hard, but again, this is something that you can get help with. So keep brainstorming. Every time you see an exciting idea, write it down. If you see someone who you think, wow, like they are doing great work, I want to know how they got there, don't hesitate to reach out or read a little bit more about them and see how they got on their journey. And also, one other thing is, just because you don't see someone that looks like you doing that type of business, it doesn't mean you can't be that person.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And the one thing, Sarah, that you said there was don't be afraid to reach out, and finding somebody who's in the nurse entrepreneurial space who you know, like, and trust, or feel like you could know, like, and trust. It would be great to have starter conversations with them where you're asking them for coaching or support in how to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to switch gears a little bit now. And I love that you created this company called Business Savvy. So it's so catchy. It just rolls off your tongue. The first time I heard it, I was like, wow, I really like this term. So what does it mean to you to be business savvy, Sheena?
Well, thanks for the question. As opposed to business savvy.
Yeah. Now I get it. Okay.
People will say things like, "Oh, wow, they've really got, like, they're business savvy. They know about this and they know about that." And I remember thinking that the word, even the word business, just really, it gets my back up sometimes. You know, I'm like, I'm a nurse. I'm not involved in sales. That's not how I want to do this. Like, usually people come to us. We don't have to go find them.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I got thinking about it, over the summer, the more I was putting together the program, the Grow program that I offer for nurses who have launched their businesses and they want to start growing and scaling. I started to realize that everything that I have learned about running six-figure businesses comes from my nursing education, my nursing training, and my nursing practice. And I just thought to myself that I'm not business savvy. I'm business nurse savvy. And then it just got all got really short. So that's where it came from. And I really do believe that nurses aren't business savvy. We're business savvy, that we take everything we know about nursing and we apply it to our businesses. And that's what makes them successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And so you talked a little bit about starting your nurse psychotherapy practice. What's the story behind Business Savvy? Like, why did you want to try this new business?
Right. Well, what I was getting a lot of phone calls, emails, DMs from nurses who were saying, you know, I've launched my business and it's stalling, and or I'm not getting the number of clients, or there's not enough products moving off the shelves. Like, how did you grow your clinic to this point? How'd you do that? What steps did you take? And I started to realize that similar about what happened to me is that nurses don't have, it's difficult to find, let me just rephrase this. It's difficult to find nurses that have grown and scaled businesses and discover how they did it. And I wanted to make Business Savvy and the Grow program so that nurses could have a year-long program where they're working with other nurse entrepreneurs who are in similar stages that need stepwise approaches to growing their business, whether that's growing in their marketing or growing in their clients or growing in their products or what have you, that I can support them and work together in that way at a fairly accessible rate. Because I was looking at business programs to help me grow that were $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 by gurus in business, and then you don't even get to work with them.
Wow.
Right? And I thought, I can't do $10,000. Like, holy smokes, I just barely finished paying off my master's degree. Right. And so I found a business coach who understood what I wanted to do. And she's wonderful, but also she's not a nurse.
Yeah.
And what I found is the nurses I've been working with do much better when they're working with nurses who get it. And so the community that we've built around Business Savvy and in the Grow program has helped nurses stay focused and engaged and having more success than they would if they were just working on their own, trying to set their goals, trying to set their plans for their business. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah. And I think the best thing about Business Savvy is the community aspect, that you can talk to other nurses who are having similar challenges, and maybe other nurses in the program are a few steps ahead, that they can offer the solutions to the rest of the group. And so that the aspect of community, I think, is really the best part, because anybody can go watch a YouTube video or pick up a book, but it's not very interactive, and you may just lose motivation after a period of time. And, I have a community as well, and it's called Nurses Breaking Free. So similar to you, we have a community of nurses who are looking to break free of bedside or shift work or whatever it is. And we like to help each other and coach each other to get to that next level, whatever it might be. So I think that's really cool. And, I've been part of your group for a while too. And I can say I feel very blessed. I feel like it's very psychologically safe. So that's something not a lot of nurses have in their workplaces, unfortunately, but it is a very safe space. And you do a great job, Sheena, at keeping it that way, of motivating others. And so I think it's really inspirational. So, it's a really great place to be. So I would encourage anyone who wants to know more to reach out to Sheena, and, she can give you all the information.
And
go ahead.
Just to plug you just for 1 second, Sarah, because I do know nurses who have been in your program and who have found such relief at knowing that they've got support to be able to do the things they want to do. I think we get really institutionalized as nurses, where we have this idea that we can only have this track and this is it. And it's very difficult to feel secure enough to move outside of that. And you offer them such a gift in that space to be able
to. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's true.
And starting a business doesn't have to be scary, right? So no one is saying that you need to quit your job overnight and do this, unless you want to, of course, because it sounds like, Sheena, that's what you did. But you don't have to do that. So you can start something off the side of your desk. You can start very slowly. That's kind of how I started myself. I didn't know if it would lead to anything, but gradually over time, it grew and grew. And it got to a point where I said, I don't have enough hours in the day anymore. I need to make a decision, right? So either I let this business kind of fade away, or I take that next step and I go into it and kind of let the other thing fade away, which was my full-time job. And it didn't fade away completely. So I went from full-time to part-time to casual. They just kept asking me to come back, which was good in a way, because it allowed me like a little bit easier of a transition. So it doesn't have to be like you quit your job and you're all in and, you're starting from zero. So there are different ways to start your business. And even if you want it to be a side thing or just a thing on the side, that's okay too. So there are many different ways that businesses can look. It can be, you can still be providing direct care in some way. You could be completely removed from care. It's whatever you want it to be.
Yes, that's right. And I love that you said that, because there's that place where you could have stalled. You could have stopped. Right? You could have said like, okay, I can't do this, but with a little bit of support and encouragement, like what you were able to do is just phenomenal. And that I still see patients. Like I still see clients. I have client days where I still work in my nurse psychotherapy practice because I love it. I love it so much. And I don't want to I'm not ready to give up client facing hours yet.
And just going back to something you said, nurses really do better with other nurses. I find that a lot of nurses come to me because I'm a nurse. Do you find that in your practice, or even just outside of that?
Yes, I do. I find my clients come to me specifically because I'm a nurse, that we see first responders and doctors and nurses and police officers because we are nurses. And I say we, meaning my associates in the acceptance clinic. And then also people who are wanting to grow their healthcare business, who are nurses, are saying, oh gosh, thank gosh you exist. Thank gosh you're accessible, et cetera, et cetera. We're the, how do I want to put this? I don't think it's a secret that we're the most trusted profession above all others. And I think that unfortunately we've been taught to mistrust each other, but in the business community, I really believe, at least the community I want to foster, that we're all able to support each other regardless of where our successes have been or have not been. Mhm.
So we just got a few more comments. So we've got someone calling in from BC. Kyla would like to. Oh, she gets someone in nature or near water. Ideas, I think. We've got someone watching from India.
Wow.
And Priya says, thanks for answering her question about starting early in her career. Kyla loves your play on words, biz nurse savvy. I'm never going to think of that word the same again now that I know where it came from.
Great.
Okay, and then Susan's from Wisconsin. Heather says, you're both amazing. You are amazing too. Look at all the designations after your name.
I know. Holy smokes. But COHNC. Wow. Okay.
Oh, and Andrea, maybe you could quickly answer this, Sheena. What education do you need to be a nurse psychotherapist?
Well, here in Ontario, you need to have your undergraduate in your Bachelor of Nurse Science and Nursing, and you need to be registered with the College of Nurses of Ontario and be in good standing. The college says that anybody who has the knowledge, skill, and judgment to perform the controlled act of psychotherapy may do so. There are some nurse psychotherapists who have gone, nurses who have gone on to take their master's degree in clinical psychology or social work. However, a lot of nurses that I know who are nurse psychotherapists here in Ontario have taken upgrading courses, and I did my master's degree in leadership, and I took up courses in cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, IFS, et cetera. And that's how I learned the skills that allowed me to apply those modalities to my nursing practice, as opposed to learning the modalities and then practicing it in a different way. I really wanted to be clear that I was practicing it from a nursing lens and using those modalities as nursing interventions. I hope that makes some sense.
Thanks. And Sheena and I have done a separate talk on nurse psychotherapy, so I will put that in the comments after if anyone wants to know more about those specifics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Kyla has another question. Is it possible to be a nurse business owner as an associate RN? So I'll take this first, and then Sheena, feel free to jump in after. So there is no specific qualification you need to start a business. So it is very helpful that you are already a nurse, but you do not need to go back to school unless you want to. You do not need to take special courses in business, like specifically, unless you want to. Obviously, if you're providing direct care to patients, you just might want to make sure you check with your college and liability and that kind of thing. But you can start a business whether you're a diploma RN or you have your PhD in nursing. That doesn't matter so much when you are doing something such as owning your own business.
That's 100%. And I'm not too sure I'm familiar with the term associate RN.
I think that's more of in the States. It's more like it's not a 4-year baccalaureate, but it's more like a 2-year nursing degree.
Got it. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, yeah. So I agree with everything that that Sarah has said, and that one of the biggest myths about nurse entrepreneurship is that you need a business degree in order to run a business, and that isn't the case. You do need to make sure that you check with the college that regulates you or the association that regulates you about what your independent practice can look like, but ultimately. And depending on what you're providing, you don't need anything more than your skills that you already are bringing to it.
Right. And I know that can be a very foreign concept to people, that you have exactly what you need to get started, but the truth is you do. So the scariest part now is knowing that you don't have to do anything else. You can just get started. I think this is where a lot of people get stuck, because it's like, oh, so I don't need to ask permission from anyone. Like, I can just start. But then we're not used to having that level of autonomy, I don't think. So then it's like, well, how do I start? What do I do? And this is where I think your coaching really comes in handy.
Right. And I can appreciate that for sure. Having coached and supported lots of people into primary care nursing here in Ontario and British Columbia, what I noticed is that nurses who were coming from a hospital-based perspective, they had a really hard time transitioning into being an independent, say, primary care nurse. in a rural community, because there's not a lot of backup, if you will, right? You really have to be confident in your skills, and moving into entrepreneurship or into business ownership, to me, I imagined it felt the same. If you're confident in your nursing skills, but you're not so confident in your quote unquote business skills, those are things you can learn. Those are things you can learn. You'll be shocked at how much we already know about running a business based on our nursing skills. Really shocked.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And so Kyla just wanted to follow up. It's a 2-year degree versus a 4-year, but the same test to get your license.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So this question from Susan, I think this is related to nurse psychotherapy. How do you get reimbursed? Private pay, or do you bill insurance?
That's it's a great question. I get in my business savvy role. So as in that particular business part, I get paid directly from from the folks in the Grow program, so from the participants. But as it relates to nurse psychotherapy, they pay me, and then they submit to their insurance company for reimbursement. Over the last 3 or 4 years, there's been huge gains for how am I going to say this? Insurance companies have smartened up and they're starting to accept more and more nurse psychotherapists for billing purposes. There was a time when that didn't happen at all. We just had a really major win where Manulife now covers all of their teachers for nurse psychotherapists, which is fantastic. And then a whole other one, which is the doctors, the OMA, also nurse psychotherapy is covered for them, and also for folks in Green Shield. So it's very exciting. Really
yes,
exciting.
I have to say that my drop-down menu now shows psychotherapy, where before it was just psychologist and I think psychiatrist. So huge win. I think there's a lot more awareness now that nurses can practice psychotherapy, and it's no longer like in the other column, which is what used to say provider not listed. Now you're listed.
Yeah, which is delightful. Yeah.
Okay, a question. Once you start a business, do you hire a lawyer to help you drop the contracts, etc., that you have your patients sign? That is what worries me the most. Also, as far as covering myself, is it as simple as having nursing insurance and getting a business license?
Okay. Sarah, did you want to field that first?
Okay, so I think in terms of starting a business, to drop contracts, that is something you can do depending on the type of business that you have. So this is where I think it helps to get some advice as to what types of risks are incurred in your business. So I think anything with direct patient care, even if it's virtual, you do want to look at some type of insurance. If you're going to be doing something like general education, let's say you're creating a course or something, for me, for example, I'm doing a lot of career type advice. Maybe a little bit less risky than if you're providing mental health advice to someone. So I would always just check with a lawyer or even just someone that covers business insurance. Again, this is really where it's helpful to have a community of other people you can ask to see what they're doing. That's probably what I would suggest. So the short answer to this is maybe you need a lawyer or maybe you don't, but you should check.
Right.
And as far as covering yourself, is it as simple as having nursing insurance and getting a business license? Again, I think this depends on the type of business you offer. If you are physically going into people's homes, I would say there is additional insurance you would need just to cover yourself from that aspect. But Sheena, I'll let you kind of weigh in on your experience with this.
Sure. So the only thing I've used a lawyer for is drawing up the contracts for my associates, because the guidelines through the privacy laws, so privacy laws here in Ontario, at least, they're really clear about what I need to have in my informed consents. There's so many templates about informed consents that clients have to sign or that clients can sign. I used a mix of ones that I found until I felt really comfortable with that. And it checks all the boxes in the College of Nurses informed consent documents, and also the PHIPAA documents, that the checklists that they have. When it comes to my business coaching clients or folks in the Grow program, I drafted a contract, and then I ran it through Chat GPT, which I know some people find that really difficult, but I ran it through that to make sure I wasn't missing anything. And mostly, so no, I didn't use a lawyer for that. And it has, and basically around that, it's that they have to pay no matter what, and it's a 12-month contract, and it results, it is their results are determined on how hard they try, using the tools that I've shared with them. So it's a very simple contract. But also nursing insurance, I'm really risk averse when it comes to that kind of thing. So I have insurance with the RNAO, and I have insurance with the CNPS as well. And I have business insurance. So I got business insurance when I became incorporated last year. That was really important for me. And here in Ontario, we don't necessarily need a business license to run a business. You can just open a business as a sole prop or a solo provider. So yeah,
Okay.
I hope that answers the questions.
Yes. Okay. Next question from Ottawa. Unsure if it was mentioned before, how can nurses get started by quote unquote registering themselves as a business owner? So I will weigh in just based on my experience. You don't have to register as a business owner. I did not register for a very long time. I actually was forced to register when I opened a business bank account, and they said, you can't have a business bank account unless you're registered. So then I registered as a business in Ontario, where I'm based, but I also recently incorporated earlier this year, and I had to officially register as a, what do you call it? A federal corporation, meaning that I can provide services all across Canada. So if you're just starting out, I honestly would not recommend incorporating. But obviously, if there are certain risks with your business and you feel like you want to protect yourself, that is something you can look a little bit more into if you feel like you do want to go down that road.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so one more question. Jody has 2 bachelor's degrees in psychology and nursing, and she's 3 classes away from finishing her MBA. Congratulations. She started in the ICU, went to fertility, then worked in quality improvement. Even with all this education and experience, she is completely lost. What do you suggest for someone like me, and without knowing exactly what business I would like to do?
Whew, okay. I don't know. That makes my heart hurt. And also I feel so excited. So my first suggestion would be book a consult with me. Because this is where my heart is, with me or with Sarah, who can point you in being able to take all the skills you have and help you figure that out. Because I just, now I have so many questions. I don't know about you, Sarah, but I just, I would find somebody who you really connect with. It's Jody, right? Jody,
yeah.
Yeah, I would find somebody, Jody, who you really think you could connect with, and pay them for an hour of their time or 2 to help you sort that out. Because I don't think either Sarah nor I would want to see you feel like you don't know where to go. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You feel like that.
It's hard. I feel like it's hard to, that's the thing, right? So for me, it was so hard to come up with the idea. I feel like coming up with an idea is half the struggle. But once you have the idea and direction, it does make things a little bit clearer as to what you should do next. So, and this is something I go through with my career coaching clients, is like, take a step back and think about what your priorities are in this next stage of your career. Are you looking for work-life balance, opportunity for learning and growth? Do you just want to get home for dinner in time? Like there's no goal that's too small. You need to just be honest with yourself about what you want. And at this point, I feel like we're saying, I think you have all the skills you need. It's just sometimes the mindset and the confidence to move forward with whatever that next step is. And I know this sounds silly, but I used to watch a lot of Dragon's Den. This is when I was a teenager and when I was in my younger years, and I'd look at these people thinking, wow, like I would like to be them one day. And every time I see a nurse on Dragon's Den, by the way, I get super excited, even if they don't get a deal. I just get so excited that they even got this opportunity, that they are in entrepreneurship and that they're using their skills to create a business, right? That's going to help other people. So I think like I also think that talking to people who are non-nurses, sometimes even with their best intentions, they have all these suggestions for you that just don't make sense.
Mhm.
And like we're saying, having a nurse that kind of gets you from the beginning is really, really validating.
Yes. And the other piece is I think that working with non-nurses in business, they don't understand our fears. There is a unique set of fears and limiting beliefs that nurses have about their capabilities that come from years of being told that we can only do one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts right away from the first week of nursing school. And so, Jody, one of the things I might suggest is that you think about what do people ask you to do?
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, why do people call you? Why do people seek you out? Why do they seek you out on the floor? Why do they seek you? Why did you go into quality improvement? What did people think? Why did they think that was a good idea for you? And I think you might find some avenues there that would be really helpful.
Yeah, and I will say though, also, whatever business you decide to start does not have to be directly tied to your clinical area of expertise if you don't want it to. So I spent the majority of my career in maternal child health. I worked in 3 different units. I got probably every possible certification you could get, and I walked away from it all. I walked away, and like it was worth it for me. I still think I learned a lot during my time in that area. I think at some point, if I wanted to go back, I could, but don't feel like it's a loss that you are trying something completely different that may not have anything to do with what you're currently doing.
Mhm.
So just kind of keep that in mind too. If you
Absolutely.
work in quality improvement, but you're really passionate about children, let's say, but you don't have the clinical expertise, it doesn't mean you can't get started, because again, it's about what you could see yourself doing day in and day out if nobody were to look over your shoulder and make sure that you're hitting your goals or whatever tasks you have to complete.
Yes. Yeah. I have one of our nursing colleagues has gone into digital marketing. Nothing to do with where she was for 10 years. Oh, bless you, Sarah. That nothing to do with any of that. But she just discovered that she had this passion and this gift for digital marketing. And that's what she does. And she travels all over the world to do that. That's amazing to me.
Right. And as just a random aside, there is a nurse in my neighborhood who now is a dog groomer. She's a mobile dog groomer, and she makes more now than she did as a nurse, and she loves it. She says, I can make it on schedule. I
Mhm.
love being around dogs. I always wanted to do this, and now I'm actually doing it. So
Mhm.
it doesn't have to feel like a loss. It's just the next step of your career.
Yes. Yeah.
So thank you, Sharonda, for your support.
Mm.
Yes, you've got to be honest with what you want. You succeed when you do what you love.
Yes.
Most times, people close to you can tell you what you're good at. Absolutely.
Yes. My wife keeps telling me that I need to write a book called The Shit People Tell Me.
Yes, you should. Obviously, that would obviously not breaking patient confidentiality, but I think that's amazing. You should
Yeah.
do that.
Yes. I can sit on a bus and know everybody's life history within 2 feet around me. She said, I don't know how that happens, but you need to start writing that down.
Yeah, that would be fun. Okay, break time is over for me. I agree with the limiting beliefs you mentioned about nurses. Great
Mm.
session. Much gratitude for the experience you shared with us. I wish you all much success in your entrepreneurial goals. Thank you. That is so validating, and thank you very much for your support. Let me see. Are there any other questions from anyone? We do have a bit of time left. Or Sheena, is there anything you want to go back to? Anything that we didn't quite cover yet?
There was a question around, you know, what, and I'm curious for you, Sarah, what you might do differently going forward. Is there like one or two things that you might, as you're starting to grow your business,
Mhm.
that you want to do differently than what you've done before?
That's a good question. I think just listening to, so the term in business is called do, like, see what the market is saying to you. And what that really means is, let's say you put a new service out there and nobody's taking you up on it. So basically what it's saying to you is maybe not a lot of people need that service, or you put something out there that you didn't think people would be interested in. All of a sudden everyone's knocking on your door free resume checklist. So that's one of the free things I offer. And so listening to what people are telling you, again, I think is something that nurses are really great at, right? We're very in tuned to verbal and nonverbal communication. So sometimes a patient may not say something, but you can tell that they're going downhill, or you can tell something's about to happen. It's the same thing as in business. You'll always be kind of experimenting here and there to see what people are telling you. And what people are telling me is that a lot of nurses are interested in entrepreneurship, but they don't know how to get started. A lot of nurses tell me they don't know how to use LinkedIn. They don't know how to use social media. So that is something that I'm also doing is if anyone's watching live on LinkedIn, I do help with LinkedIn profiles and helping you understand how you can use this to your advantage. That's really how I got started. So I started with doing resumes. That's why it's called the RN resume. But based on the feedback I was getting, people were asking for help with interviews. They were asking for help with LinkedIn. They were asking for help just with their careers in general. So with every ask, I just started to add more services on. And I think that, there's just something to be said about the coaching aspect, that people are looking for that instant support. They're not looking for necessarily like a book to read. They're just looking for that human connection. And so that's what I'm seeing, especially right now, like with COVID, everything was virtual. So people still want that connection.
Yes.
And I think people are starting to realize that nurses do have other options, and they're looking to explore that. So I'm seeing a big interest in these sort of non-traditional types of jobs.
Oh, that's so exciting to hear, right? Just listening to what people are saying and then offering them what it is that they're asking for. Yes. Yes. One of the things that the Grow program or Business Savvy started out as a way to help folks grow the businesses that they already have. But as we've been listening to more and more people, we're going to be working with nurses who are wanting to launch their businesses as well, and doing a 6-month program for them to be able to get them to start it up and get it moving so that they have that forward momentum, that they're not alone in that. I'm really excited about that part.
Yeah. Okay, one last question. Heather, she just wanted to say nurses need to get better at supporting each other and encouraging each other. Being stuck and not following our passion leads to burnout. So I will say though, having gone into this entrepreneurial space, it's been nothing but positivity. So a lot of what I experienced when I was still working at an organization was just a lot of bullying, backstabbing, toxicity. I have not witnessed that really since I became an entrepreneur, which sounds weird because I was so scared to do it, right? But then once I did it, I was like, oh, there is a world out there where people don't gossip about you behind your back or do all these things that I was so used to, that was so ingrained in me as part of the job, but it is not part of the job. And so there is hope for you out there. If you're not looking to be part of that toxicity anymore, there is something else you can do. And so she and I are here to help you with that. And we definitely want to support you wherever you are in your journey.
Yes, absolutely.
So Sheena, will you share with people how they can find you? Because you're so easy to find, but I would just love if you could share where you're located.
Sure. You mean like my social media handles?
Yes, I don't mean where you're physically located. I mean online, where people can find you.
So online, you can find us at businesssavvy.com. You can also find us at acceptanceclinic.ca, and online on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, business. I think it's at Business Savvy and at acceptance.clinic.
Okay, we'll put all those into the comments so you can click on them. And for me, you can go to thernresume.com if you're looking for career support. You can also find me on sarafung.com, so my first and last name.com. I'm mainly on LinkedIn, but you can find me on all the other platforms as well if you look up the RN resume. And so we are so excited to support you on your journey. And if anyone has other questions, if you just keep putting them into the chat, Sheena and I will get to them a little bit later.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Sure.